Ni hao, daja hao, and welcome to this video where I'm going to talk about my expectations for my upcoming China trip, which is in, just 2 weeks. Oh my god. There is obviously going to be a lot of things that I'm going to experience. Things I love about China and things I don't love about China. It's going to be like that with every country. It's going to be fun to look back at it later to see if something I thought that I was going to like, I didn't really like, or something I thought that I was not going to like, I ended up actually quite liking it. I'm first going to address the elephant in the room. Yes, I do have a comb in my hair. And no, it's not because I try to be funny. It's not because I put it there for any particular reason. It's because I managed to just get the comb stuck to my hair. So yeah, try to ignore the comb. I'm just gonna go with the flow and have it in and make the video. So what are my thoughts before my China trip? I am very excited, but to be honest, I am a little nervous for certain things. I'm not gonna try to hide the fact that I have so much expectations, and some people have pointed out that maybe you should tone down your expectations a little bit, because maybe then you will get disappointed, right? And this is gonna be interesting. When I watch back at this video, will I still have the same feelings as I have now? This is my expectations for China. Especially Shanghai and Beijing, which are the two cities I know I'm gonna go to. I think it's gonna be very technological, especially like Shanghai. I think I'm gonna be blown away by a lot of things. I think it's gonna be cool to go around and pay with my Alipay. WeChat, cross the fingers it works. I'm gonna bring some cash just in case, because this is such a new city. It's so many new buildings that's just been built the past, 20 years. It's so new. I think it's gonna be very shocking for me to see such a newly developed city. I also think that I'm gonna be very happy about seeing how clean the streets are and how safe it feels, how things are being taken care of. In Norway, it's not like it's super unclean. I've been to countries where it's worse, but we have cases of people spray painting places, and I just have expectations too that China, it's a little bit more clean than in the West. I could be wrong, but that's my expectations. I also expect there to be a lot of security cameras. I'm sure everyone is familiar with that China has a lot of security cameras in public spaces. Me as a female traveler, I actually like it because I will feel more safe. I've always been wishing we had more security cameras in Norway. I know this can be misused, and it's a good thing if it's for the people. And as a tourist, I think it will make me feel safer. Maybe not at this trip because it's so short, but in my next trip, it's gonna be very interesting to see if I thought the cameras were just okay, for feeling safe, or if it ever came to the point where it felt intrusive. One expectation I have is that I'm very excited to try the different foods. I have no clue whatsoever about how Chinese food actually tastes. That sounds weird because I've had a lot of Chinese food in Norway and when I went to the US. Some people say that Chinese food in China tastes completely different, and also China has a lot of different food in different cities. So I'm very excited to actually taste authentic Chinese food. And people say it's really good. Some people also say that it's they come to China, they like Chinese food in the West, they come to China and it's the food, but then the more they live there in China, they just start to love it. It's gonna be interesting to see how my experience with Chinese food is. I do expect the people in China to not be that good in English, especially the older generation. I want to try to speak as much Chinese I can, and I'm gonna try to use translation apps or prepare myself for conversations, because I'm gonna try to speak as little English as possible. I think people are gonna be a little bit better in English in Shanghai than compared to Beijing. I could be mistaken, but since Shanghai is such a international hub. But that's gonna be very cool to see how hard it's gonna be to communicate with people, but wish me luck. Okay, so let's talk about some cultural shocks that is gonna be completely new to me. Okay, first of all, I've heard about the squat toilets. I've never been on a squat toilet before, so I haven't really looked into it because it's kind of fun to just experience it for the first time without like looking too much into it. But how I think it is that you just have a hole in the ground and you're gonna squat down and just do your business over it. Well, I'm so gonna try that. You know, I'm a person, I don't care, I'm gonna do it. And I mean, I have to go to the toilet. Another thing that is totally different than in the West is that you have to bring your own toilet paper to public bathrooms most of the time, as I have understood. So for me, just having the thought of going around with a toilet roll in my bag or like some paper in my bag, interesting. I mean, I'm not complaining, but I think it's something you're gonna get used to very quickly living in China. But as a tourist, you probably forget sometimes and suddenly you have to pee real bad. But yeah, I will remember toilet paper, I promise. We don't really like eye contact. We don't really like to look at people we don't know. We really like to be in our own bubble. That can really be a cultural shock going to China. People, what I've heard, are more starey in China, like they look at you, and especially if you're a foreigner, I would suspect that they will look a little bit more at you than normal. And the crowds. I expect there to be so many people, and I'm actually not a person that likes that many people. I'm gonna let Alan tell you this fact. How many people live in Norway, the whole of Norway?
As of March 2025, Norway's population is estimated to be around 5.6 million people.
5.6 million people in the whole of my country. That is not even close to like one city in China. It's insane. So as you can imagine, I am used to a lot of personal space. I'm expecting there to be people. It's not like I'm gonna be like, oh, there's people. But I could get easily tired after being around a lot of people for a long period of time. Maybe it grows on me. Oh God, Alan, you still there?
I'm here. Adjusting to more crowded environments can be a bit overwhelming at first, but you'll likely find ways to cope and maybe even enjoy the bustling energy. Plus, you'll have a lot...
Alan, I didn't even know you were here. I forgot to turn him off, sorry. So yeah, that's gonna be interesting to see how I handle all the crowds, but at least I'm not traveling in the public holidays. I've heard that the Chinese is a little bit more direct. It takes a lot of time for us to open up and be direct with people. So I think maybe that's gonna come as a little shock if someone just says something straight out to me that I wasn't prepared for. For an example, like, oh miss, you have rabbit teeth. That's probably not gonna happen, but I would just respond with, 给我一根胡萝卜. So let's dive into the things that I am pretty sure or think that I won't like. This one is gonna break my heart every time, but I just have to think it's just not the thing here. And that is the cutting in line. In Norway, I think we have a very, very strict rule of like staying in line. If people cut a line, you are looked at weirdly. It's like, why are you doing that? You're not respecting all the people that is waiting in the line behind you, you know? So cutting in line, I've heard, hasn't really been a big thing in China. I think recent years, people say it's gotten better. Me personally, I think a society would benefit from people staying in lines and not cutting in lines. But you know how it is. There's always going to be bad apples in every country. So I'm very curious, if you're a Chinese person, is this true that line cutting is so bad as I've heard? I think I will be okay with this for like traveling because, I mean, I have to, and I'm just gonna have to think it's not a part of the culture like in the West. But if I lived there, in China, I would be thinking to myself like, I wished it was a little different. That one thing. Yeah, I don't like line cutting. The spitting. I don't like the spitting. Like, I don't like when people do like but I think I will get used to it. I think in the beginning, if someone starts to do that right next to me, I will be a little bit like, oh, but I will just have to think, you know, that is not rude, that's their culture. culture. So I'm gonna be fine with that one. But yeah, that's definitely one thing that I have to like tell my brain every time, like, oh, he's not rude, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's gonna be fun to experience that for the first time. I kind of hope people do it now just so I can experience and see how I react. A lot of viewers have warned me about the traffic. People have said that even though you're good to go over the street, it could be that traffic isn't stopping for you. You have to actually like pay attention. I like to follow rules. I always look over to my shoulders every time I cross the street, but it's good to know because I am kind of naive, I would say, that I just think that the driver is gonna stop for me. So I should, in China, I'm gonna be waiting until I see that the car is actually slowing down before crossing the street. Yes, I will. This one is gonna be very interesting for me. We have very good air quality here. I don't live in the big city, so going outside I can smell the fresh air, and I'm very excited to see for myself how that is in Shanghai and Beijing, because you know how it was in Beijing some years ago. We all have seen the pictures of Beijing just filled with smog, reports of people getting sick because of the bad air quality. But I have heard that it's gotten so much better the past years. China is really putting more effort into changing the air quality, especially in the big cities. But that's gonna be one of the things I'm very curious about. Like, how is the air quality? Will there be days in Beijing where I actually like, oh, I feel it? Or I don't know. I'm just so excited to get that information. And if you live in Shanghai and Beijing, please leave a comment down below. So one of my expectations about going to China is that the arrival is going to be scary. Not that it necessarily is going to happen, but I think out of everything with my China trip, that is the time I will be the most scared, because I have heard horror stories about people that wasn't prepared. They didn't have all the information they needed. Something happened with their phone. They didn't have a VPN, and therefore they were told to leave the country because they couldn't prove they couldn't give all the information they needed. I feel like I'm prepared. But I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I am a little bit scared of like the VPN doesn't work, or suddenly all the information I have printed out, like I can't find it. They're saying like, oh, but you needed to do this before you came and you haven't done it. I don't know. I just want to get into the country. Like, as I put my foot in China, I won't worry anymore, I promise. I don't know if that fear is totally irrational. I don't think so, because you should be prepared when you come to China. You should have all the information and stuff for them to see. So I don't think it's irrational, but I think it's probably gonna just be just fine. I have been preparing myself. So yeah, that's the expectations I have for my upcoming China trip. Please leave a comment down below about what was your biggest cultural shock when you went to China. And if you're from China, what was the biggest cultural shock, like going to a country in the West or somewhere else in the world? Because I'm sure you also had some cultural shocks. Thank you so much for watching. If you're still watching the video, I just wanted to say, wow, my latest video just blew up the other day. And with a lot of exposure, of course, you get the negative comments. But I just want to thank everyone else that is so supportive for all your love and all your support. And me and the comp, oh lordy. Look how well I managed to get this in there. Oh. I was gonna like do it like this to check my roots, because you can see my roots are pretty different from the rest of my hair. I could just not get the comb out of my hair, and I thought to myself, this is a channel about my journey, my real experience, so why not just fill with a comb in my hair? Because I couldn't do it tomorrow. Thank you for watching this video about my expectations.